being big 7:01, I'd like to call the December 9th meeting of the Capital Planning Committee to order. First on the agenda, we have discussion questions. Does anyone have any thing they'd like to discuss or any questions about any of the presentations that we've heard at all? Darlene's actually sharing the screen. She's putting up the Excel worksheet. I want to thank everybody for submitting your Excel worksheets. That helps because they kind of get an idea of what projects people are think are worthwhile for funding, and if there's any that aren't. And so just to kind of recap, all of the projects numbered 1 through 16 received 4 more votes. So that's why they're filled in, but we could, as I said in the thing, it doesn't mean they're automatically funded. I'm going to open it up for discussion. One of the things I did want to mention just as we get going is, the FY23 capital improvement plan, this is kind of an extraordinary year because I know we have some new members this year, but we also have some members that are returning. And if you've ever watched these meetings or participated in them in the past, you know that usually the problem that we face is there are always the capital needs of our town far outweigh the funding that we have available. So we're always struggling to try to reduce the level of requests so that we can, have an adequate capital plan, but at the same time make it affordable. So this year it was a little different. Everybody seemed to be willing to fund the first 16 projects. The basketball and tennis courts, that was an issue because of the price tag. And I know in talking with Dr. Lang and the school committee, the need is there, but they recognize that it's a very large project. And so if that was selected, it sort of crowds out all their other needs. It doesn't mean that the need for the project goes away. So I did want to mention that, the town manager and I are going to be working over the next few months to see if we can identify some other funding sources for that project because the courts are in very, very rough condition. But I also wanted to mention, too, it was an extraordinary year because several projects that relate to the school HVAC system work are eligible for ARPA funding. So they're going to be considered for funding through those federal funds. And so that allowed really school administration and our public works director to really get together and sort of reprioritize and trim the list down. So I want to thank them for their work on that. So with that being said, I want to open it up for, any committee members that have a question or want to discuss anything.
Well, since I'm the one that seems to have been the only one to sort of submit it differently, I guess my first question, and it's more of just an understanding. I don't understand why we would not expense the repairs on the library, why we would be borrowing money and paying interest on it to repair some, which should be, in my mind, part of the operating budget of the library.
Well, I think one of the issues there is in talking with Public Works, excuse me, before I answer David's question, Vilu, if you're available, could you help me? Virginia is trying to get in and I cannot, with the worksheet up, I cannot seem to see the area to admit her to the room. If you could help me, please. Okay, thank you. So one of the things we looked at, 60,000 is, we try to fund smaller capital improvements to the operating budget. I think it would be a stretch to try to come up with 60,000 for the library budget, for the masonry repairs. We do, if it's a smaller, say under 20,000 item to under 25,000, I know in the past, when with the town manager I work on the budget, we do try to make an effort to fund smaller items through the operating budget.
Well, again, I just, and again, I come from an industry background, not the background that most of the rest of you are involved in. It's just something that I would not consider. Now, to me, does not make sense to borrow money to pay for the repairs on the library. Okay, when it could easily be maybe spread over 2 years.
Hi, Gary Persichetti, DPW Director. If I can speak for just a second, John.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I just want to let you know that, Dave, over the last 3 years, there has been money expensed to try to keep these items up, especially the front stairway, which is extremely large. If you've been in and out of the library, that, has had this repair. So, I mean, I would say out of their operating budget, they have been taking care of that along with the large ramp, to the right of the stairs. And then, of course, I believe from the sheet, the other repair is to a chimney, which I think they explained some years ago. We did the other one that actually had a tree growing out of it a bit, and we don't want to see that again. So balling it up into one and hopefully getting them from, every couple of years of maybe a $10,000, $11,000, $9,000 repair to hopefully putting these things back in shape for the next 10 to 15 years is what we were hoping for. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Gary. Well, while we're on discussing the episode, I did want to mention too that one of the things that we looked at when the project was first submitted is I did talk to our public works director about seeing whether the basketball and tennis courts could be broken up into 2 phases, similar to what we did with the large repaving project. And both he and Dr. Lang have agreed that, unfortunately, it wouldn't be efficient. It's really a project that you would want to do all at once. So I did want to mention that we looked into that avenue on project 17.
Yeah, I mean, a quick comment on like a road, okay, you can't, break it off at a certain point and then come back and do it. The difference between that is the court has to be the same surface all the way through. If you were to do it the other way, you're asking for spots for water to eventually, creep in at an earlier age than it might after, 15 years and a little bit of cracking, or more. So, I mean, that's the reason why you just can't do it at that. And then once you're that far, you have to have nets, you have to have fence. So it's just not a project that could be split up.
Where it's such a large number, you'll just keep deferring it year to year to year. It needs to be done.
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, the last 3 years, we've expended quite a bit of money to make them playable for them. And I think that's why John had made a comment that they're looking for other avenues, to hopefully fund this, because we know it can't continue on.
Yeah, no, we do not want to defer it every year after year. I mean, it has been deferred for a few years, but we're going to make a strong effort this year to explore other avenues to see if we can get this done.
Well, and you can't break it up, Gary. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, Dave, I am. It's just not one of them projects that you can do unless you wanted to start separating portions of it. And then the problem with that is it ends up costing you more money because you'd have to put something in between, say, all the tennis courts to the basketball court to the hockey portion of it. And then it becomes sort of a separated project by some kind of a surface to keep the asphalt or the concrete, whichever one we end up going with, where it needs to be.
No, Gary, I trust you know how best to do it. That's clearly not any issue in my mind. It's just that it's used, quite a bit. There's the summer leagues. Anytime there's a rainstorm, the whole thing gets wiped out. it's long overdue to be done. I would even argue that trying to have the summer league in the condition it's in right now is a safety issue.
Yeah, and again, Dave, it will be looked at before that happens. I mean, I could just tell you that 2 years ago, Town Manager Paul Cohen and Superintendent of Schools Jay Lang and myself and Kathleen had gotten together and, had serious conversations, and we put some pretty darn good money into that to make sure that tennis could go on, and especially what you're talking about, Dave, that particular year of summer projects, and that was the year before COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course, that's another reason to want to get it. If you could get something done, this would be the year they do it, in the sense of you might have less usage. I don't know. Maybe that's not true. But thank you for explaining that to me.
You're more than welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary and David. So if we look at the first 16 projects add up to $3,738,307. I mentioned in an email that Darlene and I were reviewing some accounts this week. And although we reported the last one, we don't have any recaptured funds this year, but we do have a small amount of bond premiums that are remaining from our last bond issuance. And these can only be spent on other for the use of capital. So it's a small amount, but it will defray the amount that needs to be borrowed. The other suggestion that I wanted to throw out to the committee is I've had some time to reflect on David's suggestion at our second meeting, and that involves Project 14, which is the gymnasium repairs, adding safety padding. And the original plan was to do the South Road gym for $72,000. For an additional $31,726, the Center School Gymnasium could also receive the same safety padding.
Right.
So for an additional 31,000 and just under 32,000, we'll call it. So I just wanted to see how the committee feels about that. The total plan would remain under 3.8 million if we did that. And it would allow 2 gymnasiums to receive that padding in 1 year.
I would support that addition, assuming the school department would be able to do it and is willing to add that in this year.
Well, I feel it's a safety issue and it should be done.
Yeah, briefly, this is Jay. It's certainly not a timing issue because it would likely be something that would be done over the summertime. So if we had a vendor in working on one school, this is a relatively small job, we could just scope out and get both schools done at the same time. So from a time standpoint, no, it would not be an issue to us. It was originally carried just to split it over 2 years because we were trying to monitor the total dollar value of products that were coming forward year after year. But, the 30,000 certainly could be doable next summer with the South Row. If that was the wish of the group, we'd be happy to do that.
And if you don't mind, Gary Persichetti again, I'd just like you to know that when I redid the gymnasium at the town hall, when I did that project, I had to buy an entire roll of the burgundy top that we put over the padding. So they are holding the rest of that for us. I can't guarantee you that roll would do both gyms, but we already have that for a start, towards one of them. So that should help out as well on the timing. We can probably at least get one of them done with the remaining fabric by ordering the rest, and then he can order up for the second one. Thank you.
Okay, so Darlene just added 32,000, so that amends item 14 to say 104, 108. So the total of all the capital projects would be $3,770,307 after deducting the bond premiums that would be applied of $15,054. The net amount borrowed would be $3,755,253. So that's what we'd be looking at for proposed FY23 capital plan. Do any other would any of the members of the committee like to speak or have a question or anything? Just please raise your hand. I will get to you if you do. Okay, I'm not hearing or seeing anyone.
John?
Yes.
It's Jeff.
Yes. Hi, Jeff.
Number 18, the lighting upgrade at CHS,
Yes.
been just added.
Yeah. The reason on that, Jeff, is, and I had talked with Dr. Lang this week. It's a relatively small amount of money. I agree with you. The issue we've had is on the capital plan for many years, all of the projects have to be a $25,000 minimum. And that's in our financial policy. So we had some concern that if that was approved, we may get some questions or pushback on that. So I agree with you. It's a small amount relative to a lot of the projects, but that was the reason that.
Okay. Thank you.
John, can I jump in for 1 second?
Sure.
I was just Jeff's point. When I was talking to John about that, I think we don't want to set a precedent of having projects come below the 25,000 cap. And that is such a small number that I made a note of it. And I'm just going to bring that forward to the school committee this year under one of our one-time kind of expenses. So we will still be able to get that done. Again, I think the committee will be supportive of that. It's under $15,000. And I'm just going to recommend that be spent out of our budget to knock off that project.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Lang. If I'm not seeing if anyone has.
John,
Yes,
one
David.
last question. I'm sorry.
Sure.
The school HVAC ductwork repair and service. The only reason I bring it up, certainly needs to be done. I'm not against it, but I saw that list of $10 million potential projects from the money we're getting. And there was a lot of money available for air conditioning, ductwork, stuff like that to the town. Are you sure we couldn't use that money to do this?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. The reason we included on this list is for the capital is there's actually 3 different projects kind of woven together in that. And this was the highest priority on the school committee's list this year. And the HVAC part actually had to do with ductwork cleaning. And at the time, we were not sure that just cleaning and redoing if we were installing new ductwork, that would probably be covered under ARPA. But then there are 2 other parts of the project. One involves hot water convector units at Westland School. And so because it involved hot water heating and not really HVAC, we could only fit so much on the title for this project. We were a little concerned that wouldn't fit ARPA. And then the third portion involves a rooftop unit. So at the time, it was submitted to ARPA. It was included in that ARPA list, but we felt it would really be more, it would make more sense to be under capital because it involves 3 different things. And it has been deferred for about 3 years. So we didn't want to defer it to ARPA and then have it not approved there. And then the schools are going to be waiting 4 years for this to be done.
Well, I'm not against it. I'm just saying if ARPA could finance it, that would free up $156,000 for something else.
Yeah, the only portion that may qualify for ARPA would be the rooftop unit. And if that happens, if there's savings on this project, we could roll that over to another one, but we did want to try to move this forward.
Okay. Thank you for putting up with me.
No, they're all good questions. It's that we can only fit so much of a title in there, but that one's kind of unique. That really involves 3 different items.
Okay.
If anyone has a question, please speak or raise your hand. It's a little difficult for me to see in the box tonight here. Okay, I'm not seeing anyone raising their hand or speaking. If all of the committee is satisfied with the plan as we have it crafted here, the total of all the projects is 3,770,307 minus the bond premiums. The net amount borrowed would be 3,755,253. I'd entertain a motion to make a recommendation that we recommend this amount and these projects for our FY23 capital plan.
I move that we propose this amount in the plan.
And it sounds like Chris. We have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Jill. And I'm just going to call off, because this is an important vote, I'm just going to call off like a roll call. Jeff?
Aye, yes.
Aye. David?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. I don't see Mike Curran. And Darlene is a non-vote. Is Mike here? Mike Curran? No, I don't think he's here. Darlene is a non-voting member. I will vote aye. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 aye, and 1 abstention.
Did you get my vote too?
Let me
Jill?
just make sure. Is this Jill?
Yep.
Yeah,
I did
have.
the second. I didn't know if you got me as a vote.
Oh,
too.
I'm sorry. Did I call you? You seconded it. Jill, don't want to discuss. Jill votes aye. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 yeses and 1 abstention. Okay, so the motion passes. And then next on our agenda, we have a review of approval of minutes. This is a tough time of year for a quick turnaround, so I don't have the minutes available. I did get a question. I would normally mail those out to the committee to review. So we'll act on those at our next meeting. And if for some reason we need things change, I will, and we need to have another meeting. I'm not anticipating that right now, but if we do, I'll send an email out to the committee. Do we have any? Next on the agenda is public comments. If I'm seeing mostly committee members and our liaison. If anyone would like to make public comments, please raise your hand or say something. Give me a verbal cue. No, I don't see anyone. Okay. Does anyone have anything else that they'd like to discuss at all? Any questions? If not, I want to thank everyone for your contributions and your time this year. I know it takes a long time to study these projects, and I appreciate everyone volunteering for this. If not, I wish you all a happy holiday season, and thank you again for volunteering.
Thank you, John, for organizing.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
John, and everyone for working on this.
And before we go, I should just entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion by David to adjourn, second.
I'll second.
Second by Jeff. All those
All
in
right,
favor
Chris.
of adjourning, please say aye.
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 Aye. Sounds unanimous. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
You're a great one. All right,
You
bye now.
too.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good night.